Welcome back, everybody, and I want to take you on an incredible adventure. I've been mentioning this throughout my videos in the past, and I said I'm going to be taking a trip to Chicago. Well, guess what? This is it. It's finally time. What you're going to be seeing is one of the biggest events in aviation, and as well as one of the biggest events within aircraft maintenance. So buckle up. This is going to be a long one. Welcome to Chicago, everybody. An incredible city. I enjoyed it very much. Matter of fact, I think we brought the weather from LA with us because it was absolutely gorgeous. We all settled into our hotel rooms and got situated because we needed to attend an orientation. We took a few moments to walk around the city, and I tell you what, it did not disappoint. Some parts of it even looked like Gotham City. Felt like Batman and Joker were going to pop out of some corner and start fighting, but it was cool to see this. But the main point of us being here is for one reason and one reason only. The AMC, the Aerospace Maintenance Competition. If you've never heard of this, that's quite all right. It's not very well known within the public community, but within the maintenance community, it's very well known. Imagine the Super Bowl, or the World Cup, or the Olympics. This is the comparison. This event is held every year. Every year it's a different location. Last year was Atlanta. The year before that was Dallas. A combination of major airlines, MROs, military, and schools come together in order to celebrate aircraft maintenance as well as to bring their competitive spirit to the industry. Not only that, but it's actually held in a bigger venue, the MRO Americas. This is the biggest venue for aircraft maintenance. There are other MROs that are held around the world, such as MRO Dubai, MRO Australia, and many others, but MRO Americas is the biggest one of them all. Everybody that you can think of that is included within the aviation industry is here. Every kind of vendor, every kind of manufacturer, and every kind of tooling company. Don't worry, I'll show you throughout the way, and you'll see a nice little tour of the MRO itself between the breaks of the competition. I'll try to go back and forth between the actual competition and the MRO so you guys won't get too bored about this. I want you to see the whole thing because it's quite incredible. But first things first, we need to get to orientation. So my team and I have gathered and we're going to walk over to the orientation conference room to not only get our badges, but as well as get the introduction from the judges and all the events. There's also very important guest speakers that are there. I forgot to mention this, but this is my third year attending the AMC. But this competition has been going on since January 2017, and it has grown exponentially. Let me introduce you to two people. The man on the right, his name is John J. Goglia. This man is pretty much a rock star within the aircraft maintenance community. This man has dedicated his whole life to aviation. Matter of fact, he is the only aircraft maintenance technician to ever serve on the National Transportation Board. That's right, the NTSB, from 1995 to 2004. Even more special, he was appointed by the president himself. To be specific, President Clinton. If you have time, I highly recommend you go look this man up because he has such an incredible history within aviation and aviation safety. Now, the man next to him on his left, that is Mr. Greg Fife. You're going to see a clip where John pokes fun at Greg for a little bit because Greg is actually a very famous person. If you've ever seen any kind of crash investigation, a TV show, any of those on Discovery Channel, you're going to see that man. There's a reason why you're going to see that man because he also served on the NTSB, but because he was an actual investigator. I, matter of fact, had the pleasure of being taught by this man at a school for crash investigation. I highly regard him as one of the most smartest men when it comes down to information that comes through in incidents and aviation in general.
How many of you watch the Discovery Channel with why planes crash? That guy is on it all the time. And he's earned the name Hollywood. And also, he did the Toolbus did the crash and value jet down in the other place. And he also, at that event, it was nicknamed by the press, the Mud Stud.
Oh, these two gentlemen have an incredible YouTube channel, by the way. If you didn't know, the name of the YouTube channel is called Flight Safety Detectives. I highly recommend you guys to go watch them. They dissect in an unbiased manner on everything. It's very cool to watch, especially from two professionals like this.
Aviation Hall of Fame. And again, boils my blood because there's no maintenance people recognized. They haven't been recognized. In fact, they throw Charlie Taylor up there, but that's about it. So, you know what? God helps those that help themselves. We're gonna start our own Mechanics Hall of Fame. We got the nod from the board of directors meeting. They got the nod this morning. And there's somebody, Jason, in the back there. We just recruited him, you know, which means I should offer him my condolences because
the man on the right is Ken McTiernan. He has been an incredible contributor to the aviation maintenance community. Matter of fact, we have the AMT Day, Aircraft Maintenance Technician Day, because of him. Man at the podium is the president of Pratt & Whitney, and he gave a speech.
And all these faces in the room, just absolutely tremendous. Pratt & Whitney's been a sponsor of this competition for 10 years. Started with 28 teams, and now, as you've heard, we're at 90 teams. Just a truly phenomenal competition. We're proud to support it. Over the next couple of days, teams from OEM, MRO, technical colleges, and the military, thank you for your service, are going to compete with each other. And I'm really excited to see how that competition goes and to see who the winning team is. Each of those aircraft to take off. You are the backbone of the aviation industry. The expertise, the capability, the knowledge that you all bring to the table is what enables everybody to go fly. So for all of that, thank you very much for what you do. I work in aviation, so I'm not a gambling man. But I was sitting with the Pratt & Whitney team earlier and I told them I had to make a speech. They all rolled their eyes and said, will you please get on with it? And they were telling me about which rooftop bar they're going to go to later. So what they told me is that if I tell a dad joke and leave the stage, I get 5 beers tonight.
Large corporate sponsors, and as a nonprofit, we couldn't put this on. Money makes the world go round. So thank you very much to Snap-on and Pratt & Whitney and American Airlines. American Airlines rep couldn't make it there en route, and because I work for American Airlines, I was asked if I could kind of speak on their behalf. So I'll just keep it short because I don't have an officially prepared statement, but American did want to convey that they are happy and proud to promote not only the American Airline teams that are here, but also the schools that they're sponsoring and everybody else in this room. Because
This is the fun part of the orientation where everybody gets called out, all their teams, and everybody has to sound off, just like the military. Everybody always has the unique way of doing it. We all enjoy this. Remember, 90 teams.
Southwest Airlines, Team Colleen. Blackhawk. United States Air Force, 412th Maintenance Group, Edwards.
It's in the air, and it's put it there! They're coming up.
Touchdown. American Airlines, LAX crew.
Alex!
That's my team. All right, let's get on with it. First star of the show. Helicopter Challenge. This event is presented by the United States Army, and this is called the Main Rotor Track and Balance Adjustment. The task simulates a adjustment of the main rotor pitch change within the links of the helicopter main rotor track and balance. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this comes off of an Apache, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Last time I actually worked on helicopters or any kind of helicopter component was back in A&P school. Ever since then, I've never actually even touched a helicopter in my career. I've always just done main jets. But I do still remember some small bits and pieces of information from my studies. Rotor track and balance is a process of smoothing vibration within the airframe, which are caused by the main rotor blades. By adjusting the pitch of individual blades, you are able to cancel out that vibration throughout the helicopter fuselage, also giving a better performance to the blade's rotation. Just to make mention, there are 27 events within this whole competition, and this is one of them. Some of them are individual events, as you can see one of my teammates performing this one, and some of them are more of a team combined event, such as more people involved in it, maybe 2 or 3 involved. My teammate is cutting away the lock wire or the safety wire away from the jam nuts in order to get them loosened to get the adjustment ready. As soon as he loosens the jam nuts, now he can turn that center body, which is called the barrel. Depending on the type of adjustment needed, which is preconditioned and already told to us because there are manuals we are following, they will turn that barrel in a certain direction to get the certain adjustment they need. Once it's readjusted, and then it has to be re-safety wired, but this time by hand. On a quick little side note, a big thank you to Charles, the big gentleman right there standing behind the man with the blue shirt. That man's name is Charles, and he was the judge in that competition and also a very good friend. He is actually an incredible individual. So if you see this, Charles, thank you, brother. You're incredible.
Engineers, technicians, students, ready, set, start.
You know, I just realized I have not broken down the actual series of events of the competition. So let me double back on myself and explain. The entirety of the event takes 4 days. Day number 1 is orientation. The next 2 days are the actual competition. And day number 4 is the award ceremony. There are 27 events this year. There are 90 teams this year. Every team has 5 active members and 1 reserve. Just in case, let's say, if somebody gets injured, you'll have a reserve personnel. Some of these events are individual events. That means only 1 person performing the tasks. And some of them are team-based, such as 2 or 3 people. Within the 2 days that the events that are actually taking place, it is staggered out through a very particular time basis. So you have a break in between the events. But when the event is actually happening, everybody's participating. Everybody's doing something. Each event gives you 15 minutes to accomplish the tasks. Do provide study guides and maintenance manual procedures before you even touch the events. You also have a judge that's sitting right there and looking at you and making sure that you're doing everything properly, as well as timing you. But that being said, they're also looking for you to make mistakes. So in case you are not following the maintenance manual procedure or not wearing, let's say, your safety goggles, you can get docked points, which means it adds more to your time. Now, one thing I'm going to mention here is that this is a very unrealistic way of doing things, okay? In the real world, nobody is taking liberties with time. Matter of fact, we actually do the complete opposite. We take our time. So to anybody that's watching, any future students or any future aircraft technicians, this is not how to do it. This is a good example. It's a good understanding of how to interpret manuals, but speed is not the key here. But in the spirit of the competition, obviously this is how it's done. But my point here is that we don't go fast in the real world. You're going to hear me say that a lot during this video. As you can see right here, this individual is safety wiring by hand. And to make mention, that individual is actually part of the schools that we are sponsoring. West LA College, a phenomenal mechanic, and I can't wait to see them out in the field. All right, on to the next event. This one is presented by United Airlines, and they brought out a portion of a 747 wing. This is a fuel tank entry event. The procedure for this event is to defuel the aircraft wing, simulated obviously, and then to deactivate the NGS system, the nitrogen generating system. Once that is completed through various amount of switches and making sure proper lights come on, then you can take off the panel. Same as before, rules apply. You have to follow the procedures, but you have to go as fast as possible. But once again, in the reality, in the real world, you're not doing this fast. During these kind of events, communication is very important, especially between the 2 team members. One team member is reading instructions, the other team member is performing the work. And also can be vice versa. After all the simulated safety precautions have been performed, now you can remove the panel. Here's a perfect example, and this is one of our other sponsored schools. This is George T. Baker out of Miami, Florida. Big thank you to Mr. Munoz for the footage. You guys are amazing, and you did phenomenal. For removing the panel, and you have to reach inside the tank to recover any kind of FOD. Once that's done, now you can replace the panel, and you have to actually install that panel in a very particular manner. Not only that, you have to tighten those screws in a very particular order, as well as use a calibrated torque wrench, which has to be verified by the judge. Once all said and done, all tooling has to go back to its proper location. Yes, they will dock you points if you don't put the tools back in the proper location, or even if the torque wrench is not zeroed out. Very strict. Overall, very fun, but very laborious event. On to the next one. This is really cool. This one actually was a brand new event, and once again presented by United, and this was called Render Safe. This was a door slide change on a 767. Now, in order to perform this task, you have to really pay attention to the maintenance manual. There's a lot of safety precautions and lockouts just for this. I'm going to remind you again, in the real world, you do not do this fast. This task in the real world is actually very dangerous. One unique thing about the 767 door is that it doesn't swing out. It actually goes up into the fuselage. It's attached to a very massive spring that's in the overhead. That's one of the lockout points, that you have to put a specific pin in there. Because when time comes for an emergency and that door is being deployed and the slide deployment is actually happening, that door goes up quick in a heartbeat. The secondary point of security or safety is to actually pin the bottle, the actual bottle that inflates the slide itself, which is behind that bustle. Here's what the slide looks like behind the bustle. The key component right there on the bottom is called the girt bar. That's what attaches the slide to the floor, and once that door moves up, the slide gets deployed because it gets pulled out. So as the door moves up, the slide stays in place and then unravels itself and it gets inflated. You can see it right there. The procedure here is, first of all, put out all the safety equipment, making sure that nobody operates the door from the inside or the outside. Second of all, making sure following the manual procedures, and then start locking out all those key components I was talking about earlier. This was a 3-person event. One person was the inspector and 2 technicians working. Communication and callbacks were imperative. This is the upper roller guide, and this must be pinned before doing any kind of work. The slide comes with its own pin, and we must pin it right there, as you can see with a little yellow arrow. This is a simulated event, so the bottle pressure is 0, but it's usually reading about 3,000 psi. This is why I said the job is actually a very dangerous job and has to go very slow. Inadvertent slide deployment can cause lots of damage and lots of injury. Here's a wonderful example of the Baker students performing the duties. Once everything is properly disconnected, the slide kind of leans forward towards them, and then they just simply replace it. There are a bunch of steps that I'm leaving out of this one because it would take me another hour just to explain how to do this whole task, but I'm giving you the short version of this. This was a very challenging event, and it was a brand new event, so, it took us a minute to get used to it, but it was fun. We had a great time. Okay, on to the next one. This is the click lock challenge. Click lock is a particular type of fastener, and it has a very special feature. The feature is that it's self-locking. It no longer requires safety wire. As the fastener gets tightened to its proper location and it comes down to its very last 2 turns, that's where the magic happens. The flexible beam fingers of the locking act against the detent cam. The mating part provides a prevailing torque which is sufficient to prevent any kind of loosening. Fancy way of saying it self-locks. It's the slogan of click lock, we won't back off. To loosen it, you just provide enough torque and it will loosen. But the technology is so advanced that vibration is not going to affect it. Variety of fasteners that they have, and majority of the time they're using it on fuel line couplings, borescope plugs, drain plugs, pylon locks, things of such. Now you ask yourself, how come they don't use this kind of technology all over the aircraft? Well, it's very expensive. So using traditional fasteners with safety wire, yeah, that's still being done. These type of fasteners are more reserved for very crucial components, the ones I mentioned earlier. Here's a nice couple of examples of a cutaway of the fasteners so you guys can see the technology within it. So going back to the challenge, what is the actual task that I'm performing? So it's a comparison. First, you have to torque down the click lock, and then you have to do it conventionally. The point here is to see the difference. I would install the fastener on the left, which has the click lock, and then I would do the fastener on the right that has no click lock and have to safety wire it. It's a way where the company can represent its product and show how efficient it is and much quicker. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to capture the footage of it, but I hope you guys got the gist of this. Up next, the DMC challenge. DMC is a tooling company, and they are a staple within aviation, especially when it comes down to avionics works. In this particular event, the technician was tasked by repairing and securing a wiring harness. DMC put out a really great example video. It's on YouTube. You guys can go check this out. Here's just a couple of small clips of it. Utilizing the special tooling provided, the technician can remove the wire from the cannon plug on both ends of the wire bundle. Once that's done, any kind of FOD is discarded and you have to recreate a new wire. That means you have to repin it using, again, a special tool to crimp a new pin onto the wire. The crimper itself has to be assembled because there are different settings on the crimper because of various amount of gauge of wires and pins. A new pin will be inserted, and so will the wire, and the crimping action takes place. Pretty simple. Avionics work is actually pretty fascinating when it comes to aviation. Lots of new technologies out there, and I highly encourage anybody that is up and coming into this field to learn more about it. Once the new wire is assembled, now it gets reinserted using another specialized tool. A quick little tension check to make sure the pin is well seated within the cannon plug. And onto the lacing of the wiring bundle itself. Now, DMC has produced a new tool called Lace Lock. This eliminates the traditional way of lacing up wiring bundles as well as zip ties, makes for a quicker and more cleaner look, as well as it's more secure. Overall, this was a great event and a good representation of avionics work. On to the next event. This was represented by FedEx, and this was a cargo floor lock. These are the locks that hold down pallets within aircraft cargo holds. The task at hand is to remove, disassemble, inspect, repair, and reassemble. Looks easy, sounds easy, but trust me, this was not an easy task. Check out the minute components that are within it and the articulation of these clips. It is very difficult to do this. If not handled with proper care, it turns into a finger mousetrap, basically. It'll snap your fingers off really quick. Removing those cotter keys, sliding that unit out, making sure that springs are intact, and putting it all back together within a timely manner, which is within 15 minutes. And trust me, people were doing this very quickly. Keep in mind, the judges are watching, so if any components are lost or misplaced, like a washer or a cotter key, yeah, docking points. So once again, very fun, very challenging. Now, what you're looking at here is an APU, but it comes off of a very particular aircraft. This is the APU, Auxiliary Power Unit of MD-80. The task at hand on this one is to remove and replace the starter. That is that little black component that I'm zooming into. Removing the electrical leads as well as the nut and washers for each and the O-ring within it. Pay particular attention on how little space there is to work in there. And once again, this is an APU that is outside of the aircraft. Now, in the real world, imagine this being on the aircraft, even less space. The key here is to move very efficiently and not to lose any of the hardware, as well as not to strip or damage any of the components. Proper use of tooling is very important. Remember, tools are the extension of a technician. Skills like this come over time and throughout experience. Now here's a really fun event. This is called Perfect Point E-Drill Fastener Removal. To anyone that's been in the industry, especially that they are an airframe technician or specialize in airframe, you would really appreciate this. This particular tool is designed for ease of use to remove any type of fastener. To be more specific, titanium fasteners. Let me show you how this works. It's really fun. This is Perfect Point. This is an electronic drill. It's pretty awesome. Check this out. Got our fasteners. Drop this down, and there's a little sight in here where you can see the fastener head. Check it out. See the fastener head? Now that's perfectly aligned. Let's take that out. Put this on. Just press and squeeze. And it starts cutting automatically using electricity, and it has some water in there for as a conductor. Take that out. Cuts perfectly through the shank. And all you have to do is grab your punch, pneumatic punch. Perfect every single time. This is meant for titanium rivets or fasteners, so works. In previous years, they had the mock-up as a wing, that you're removing fasteners off of a wing. But this year, they did really something special. They brought 2 inlet cowlings to simulate real-world environment. And here's one of the West LA students right here performing the task. Right on, just like that. To this one is to make sure to get all the cuts correctly and then afterwards follow through and punch out the cut rivets.
Doing great, keep it up.
There you go.
Pull the head off there, yep. Hold on, make sure you're seated, make sure you're seated.
Give me a hand.
There it is.
There you go. All right. Come on, 3 more. You got this.
There it is, good.
Yeah.
Keep it up,
Nicely
keep it up.
done. Nicely done. There you go. One more. 1 and done.
So you're fine to bend, so you're done. Don't worry about that one.
Trey, don't worry about it.
Good, throw it in there.
As you can see, the judges are very encouraging and supportive of the students and everybody there. On to the next challenge. This was a really interesting one. This is for dent mapping by a company named 8 Tree as well as Alaska. Task at hand here is to perform a damage inspection and to map the dents. This requires a keen eye, attention to detail, and knowing how to understand depth gauges and 6-inch scales, as well as basic arithmetic to calculate the actual damage. Now, once it's done manually, then you actually get to use the very cool tool they have. Here it is. Automatically measures the dents. Pretty cool, huh? So the tool in question actually uses augmented reality to map the dents itself, any kind of bumps or any kind of surface defects. Why is this such an incredible tool? Well, because it eliminates human error. Nowadays, machines are so sophisticated that they surpass the just human capacity to inspect such things. So it's a great thing to have. On to the next event. This was presented by Eastern Florida State College. And this is a very unique event. And what this is simulating is actually communication. The task is fairly simple. You're transferring fluid from one apparatus into another. The key component of this one is pure communication between the teammates. The simulation goes like this. The person that is wearing all that PPE, the protective equipment, is simulated to be in space. The person speaking is on Earth or other body planet, whatever. You get my point. The whole key to this is proper communication and readback. So whatever the person that is next to them reading, the other person that's in the PPE has to respond, read back, and perform the action. If everything is done correctly, the proper amount of fluid from one apparatus will flow into the other. Assembly and disassembly of the apparatus has to be done as well. So everything is about attention to detail and following instructions to the T. Once again, the judges are monitoring all of this to make sure no mistakes are occurring. If there is a mistake, then you get docked points. But there's also a chance for bonuses for proper command and responses, as well as proper transfer of fluid to the exact number.
Everyone. My manager, my valve. Open flight valve. Open fly valve. Open pressure valve. We got 1 2 seconds.
Adjust and verify compressor and air regulator set to 25 psi plus or minus 5. Open MB3. Open MB1. Open S4, 5, 6, 7, 8, take a picture again. 9,
Close fly valve. Close fly valve. Close vent valve. Close MB1. Reduce compressor.
I'll take my picture.
Close MB3. Open MB2. Open MB1. Close all valves. Turn off power to the control box. Verify power to vacuum pump and control box off. Verify all valves closed. Disconnect all hoses.
As you can see, kind of stressful environment, especially when you're in an auditorium with lots of noise going around. So getting proper communication across to your teammate is very important. There you go. On to the next one. Another avionics event presented once again by Alaska Airline, and this was wire troubleshooting and repair. The task here requires you to find the bad wire, disassemble the component, and recrimp a new terminal end and reinstall it and make sure it still works. This is one of our incredible avionics technicians, and she did phenomenal.
Overall, the time is very good. I mean, I've been doing it for like 3 years, and I would say that's very solid. Yeah. See a little bit in terms of the tolerance, there was some off, but it's still within that. Like they just have first tolerance. I didn't even see it. That's not right. Yes, straightforward. Yep, and just make sure your leg, strip and crimp. So the correlation, it's like
3 minutes, 1 second.
outside.
Come on, Ipan, you got this.
Very far off. He thought it was 60-second reduction. It was actually 30.
Notice how every safety precaution is taken, proper usage of tooling, making sure the circuit breaker is pulled, all per procedure. But once again, a reminder, not a real world factor where you have to go this fast. But this is just a good example of what you might encounter when you are an avionics technician. Okay, let's take a little break. Let's go walk around the MRO and I'll show you some cool stuff out there too. I know it's a lot of events, but let's go. As I mentioned earlier, pretty much every kind of vendor, any kind of tooling company, all the major manufacturers are there and they are presenting their products. It's a great place to show up and take a look at the new technology that's out there. It's also a good place for big manufacturers to make deals and, buy tooling, whatever they need for their particular carrier. This, for example, is a borescope tool. This is something that we would use to look inside of the engine, places that are not accessible to the hand or any kind of human eye. A variety of tooling manufacturers as well, and which was so cool about them, they were actually doing giveaways. So the students that were participating and they were walking around on break checking out the MRO had a chance to win either a full set of tools or a whole toolbox. It's pretty fun. Since the convention is MRO, which is maintenance, repair, and overhaul, you also have the manufacturers or the overhaul facilities that basically refurbish all kinds of parts. That what you're seeing there is an LPT shaft. That's one of the shafts that run along the inside of the engine that spin the blades. Everything from interior to exterior, any kind of component that you can imagine is there. Even simple faucets.
On an airplane, but the simple things like push and pull, you know the difference, right?
Yeah.
These are nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
It's fun for us as technicians because we can relate to all these products because we work on all these products. Seeing components like a tire off the rim assembly or looking at a shaft that's buried within an engine that we might never ever see. So it's for us, it's fascinating. And they had a bunch of these cool little mock-ups. I think these are 3D printed engines, but man, these are really, really cool. If you ever get a chance to go to one of these MROs, I highly recommend it. It's basically like Disneyland for anybody that's aviation related or enthusiast, anything. It's always fun.
Scouting out the plugs.
Yeah. Well, they're going to be changing it here pretty soon. How are you? How are you?
I accidentally.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, there are a bunch of free goodies. I mean, swag as much as you want. These vendors are out here and they're trying to obviously sell their product. But, you know, you walk around, they have a bunch of pens, lanyards, stickers, keychains, you name it. All sorts of fun stuff. One other thing I really enjoy about this is stopping and talking to most of these vendors because these people are not directly next to the aircraft. They don't work with the aircraft as we do. So when we share our experience as technicians and we take a look at a component and say, hey, I've changed that before. Hey, I work on this. And they're fascinated by it. They want to learn more. They want to know the reliability of the product. Is it working out well for them? So it's always fun and it's always a good experience to talk to these kind of people because they have knowledge behind the scenes of the manufacturing process, the overhaul process. So it's very, very interesting to see this. And you get to meet a lot of good people, lots of smart people. This is awesome. They did a really good job on this.
Hey, don't you have one of those families?
Yeah, I do. And another one.
Where did you work prior to John? Maybe a truck.
What kind of aircraft is this?
The Falcon 900.
A Falcon 900.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Yeah, but it's huge purchase.
There's some beautiful compressor blades right there. Woo, it's clean.
Okay. Where do you usually go?
Different Glenn brought out their toys. Tried asking Rolls-Royce about their brand new Ultrafan. They were very tight-lipped about it. They would not want to tell me. But it's okay, we're going to see it soon. We had a quick little stop at GE Aerospace and said hi to some of our friends over there, and I always love seeing this. They bring out this beautiful blade. This comes off of a GE 9X. This is their biggest engine right now, and I would love to have this thing at home. That thing is a work of art. Anyway, back to the competition, I should say. That's it. The break was over. Let's go back for some more events. Should be fun. Here's the granddaddy of them all, the V2500. Last year, actually, did this. Removed and replaced a 10-stage or 7th 10-stage solenoid and did an ops check. But this year, I'm going to be doing a fuel nozzle.
16 and 17, or just this one? Oh, just that one? Yes.
Well, you do have to say you have to re-safety that as well, right? Because you're breaking breaking torque on this as well.
Just doing the one fuel nozzle. First shirts have both fuel lines.
So Pratt & Whitney brings out 2 engines to this competition. One is the V2500, which I'm going to be working on, and then the other one is the Pratt & Whitney 1100. They stagger the teams with numbers, so my team number was 62, so that's an even number, so all the even numbers worked on the V2500. All the odd number teams worked on this one. But for some strange reason, they counted it still as one event. Anyway, the task was to change out a fuel nozzle, which you'll see here shortly. As a side note, I have zero information or knowledge on this engine because we don't have them in our fleet. Ours are all CFM LEAP 1As. Still a beautiful engine though, very gorgeous. And here we go. Let's see if I can do this. Shake off the nerves and hit it hard. Removal and replaceal of a fuel nozzle. First thing I do is break the safety wire, after which I have to break the torque on the B-nuts on the fuel manifold. There's 2 of them. The way the fuel nozzles on the V2500 engines are, the fuel nozzles and the manifold are interconnected. So in order to change out one fuel nozzle, you have to break torque on 2 of them because of the way the fuel supply line is interconnected. Here you go. This is what it looks like when the B-nuts are removed and the fuel manifold is kind of pushed back. Once the B-nuts are loose and the fuel manifold is kind of slightly pushed to the side, now I get to work on the fuel nozzle itself. It takes 3 fasteners or 3 bolts that hold it on. There's also a gasket inside there. I'll show you in a second. I'm moving as fast as humanly possible, and you got to be careful. There's a lot of sharp edges there. Matter of fact, I even cut myself doing this. It was me pulling out the fuel nozzle, and this is what it looks like right here. And there's the gasket I have to replace. Confirmation from the judge, as well as getting the torque settings all proper and showing them. Now it's time to reinstall. Coming down to the final end over here and performing the torquing process of the B-nuts, and this is where I kind of messed up. I should have used an extension with that crow's foot, but it is what it is. It cost me a little bit of time. This is why I said this kind of job is not meant to be done in a hurry. When you're in a hurry and you do this kind of things, mistakes occur. This is my whole point. Unrealistic. Anyway, this is the final product. This is what it should look like. And that's exactly what it did look like when I was done with it. Now, if I actually got docked at point because I did not properly place one of the crow's foot correctly into the shadow box. It was slightly off center. So yeah, the judges are very strict when it comes down to this. So, you know, any kind of FOD, any kind of tools misplaced, and even if it's not correctly set into the shadow box, you'll get docked points. But it is what it is. It was a fun event. I loved it. I think I did fairly well on it. But hopefully next year we'll win that one. On to the next event, the PPG. Another really fun one. Okay, there's a couple of parts to this one. It's kind of a 3-part series when it comes to the PPG. One is called Transparencies. It's a 2-parter. One is a removal and replaceal of a window plug. And the other one on the same fuselage right there, or the flight deck, as you can see, is a recoating of the windshield. You have to basically reapply the hydrophobic coating. Oh, just to make mention, this is a Airbus 320 family flight deck right there you're seeing. A small window on the side is what we're changing, and I've changed a million of those in my career, so it's fairly easy. Captured as much as I can, but there you go. The window plug is already off. I'll show you guys some more footage of the students that were performing the work right there as well. This is the Baker students right there. The window, for time purposes, is only held down by 6 fasteners, and then once that plug is removed, there is an inner seal that needs to be removed. They're attached by high lock fasteners right there. At the same time, the other person is now resealing the window or cleaning it up and resealing it. There's a whole procedure for this. Back to the plug. As soon as you remove those high lock fasteners, there's 6 of them, you take off that gasket, you clean it off, and you put it right back on. Retighten those high lock fasteners and then use a suction cup to grab the window itself and place it back onto the fuselage. In the real world, obviously there's more fasteners and everything is going to require a torque value. But this one, just because for time purposes, no torque was required. They just wanted us to remove it and install it as quick as possible. Remember, not reality, just a simulation. What you see my partner doing there is shaking up the compound in order to reseal the window. There's particular chemicals inside those, so as soon as they get mixed up and in a timely manner, I believe it's 2 minutes that you have to shake it up. Once that's done, it's reapplied to the windshield. That's about it. It's not very difficult to do, so it's pretty cut and dry, right? Everything goes back in reverse and try to finish it up as quick as possible. Same time that we were doing that, the rest of my teammates were also participating within a PPG event. This is a wing sealant event. The procedure here is one person will remove all the tooling from the boxes over there and start mixing up the sealant. Sealant is properly mixed. Now the other teammate takes over and basically puts a bead of sealant into that wing seal or the crevice of the wing. You'll see it here in a second.
Please come over to the photo booth to have the team photo taken with John Golia. So please come over to the photo booth with the team and have your team photo taken. Female competitors, 12:15, there will be a group photo at the photo booth for all female competitors at 12:15 as well.
And the third and final portion of the PPG events was a virtual spray booth. This one was more like playing a video game, but it gives you proper techniques on how far to hold the spray gun away from what you're spraying, as well as making smooth motions to make sure you get even coating. This one is a brand new event presented by Boeing and Southwest. This was a troubleshooting procedure on a thrust reverser of a 737. The task needed to be performed was to deactivate certain systems as well as use a multimeter to test the leads, making sure you're getting some sort of continuity or resistance. This is done within the pedestal. Here's a quick little diagram for you to understand how the system actually works. Obviously, they don't have the whole engine here or a thrust reverser because the troubleshooting portion of this was concentrated straight onto the pedestal and the micro switches that are within the throttle controls, or the throttle body, I should say. If anybody's ever worked on 737s and there is thrust reverser issues that occur, it's most of the time the switch pack that goes out. But along with the switch pack, there's also a small little switch within that thrust column, which I'll show you in a second, that fails. It's not a hard thing to change and it's very easy to troubleshoot through this. But this is why in the real world we have FIMs, fault isolation manuals, and proper procedures on how to find these issues. There's that little control switch I was talking about. It's right underneath the control switch spring. Here's what it looks like on a real airplane. You can observe the details a lot better. Once the troubleshooting procedure is completed, they use a protractor that gets attached to the thrust reverser handle, and they go through the angles of the thrust reverser handle motion, making sure it's engaging with the switch. Once again, this was a new event. It was very interesting. On to the next event, and actually this is one of the real fun events. This is a blade removal on a Garrett TFE 731 engine. Task here is to remove the damaged blade. The simulation is, let's say the engine had a bird strike and you have a bent blade. The judges basically kind of tell you which blade you have to remove, but there's a very particular sequence on how you can remove these blades. It's not like any other engine. The process is that all the blades have to come out at least 1.5 inches in order to get the damaged blade removed. You slowly have to shimmy them out at around 3 o'clock position, but where the blade actually comes out is at 12 o'clock position. So as one team member is spinning the engine, the other team member is slowly kind of shimmying them out. This event and this engine takes a lot of finesse. You have to be gentle with it. If you start manhandling it, all those blades seize up and you'll never get anything out. For some reason, either I lost the footage or I couldn't find any, but this is from last year. This is me and my partner doing it. This year, it was a different person doing it. But as you can see, I'm trying to shimmy them out at least 1 inch or 1.5 inches out, and then I can finally get it out from the 12 o'clock position. And trust me, the time is running, the clock is running, so you're trying to go as fast as possible. Now, the interesting part, getting it out, believe it or not, is not the way difficult part. The way difficult part is getting it back in, but that's a bonus. Now, if you can get the blade back in, they give you a massive, massive bonus. But there's also little retainer clips inside. If you are inserting that blade back in, those clips love to fall into the engine, and it's a pain to get them back out. You see what I just did there? Actually, the wrong blade came out, so we had to keep on working. Yeah, this one, it's fun. It's a fun event, especially if you've never worked on this type of engine. Obviously, I haven't worked on these type of engines, but it's a good learning experience. Shout out to Standard Aero. The judges on that event are incredibly nice. They're always helpful, so thank you so much. Okay, enough with the events. Let's go take a little break and a walk around, and let me show you this. Oh yeah, Lufthansa Technik has built a Lego engine, a CFM LEAP 1B. This thing is 60% of the size of the actual engine, and I think it's got almost 400,000, maybe a little bit more Lego pieces within this thing. Weighs almost 1,000 pounds. And the cool part, they made it rotate as well. It's beautiful. The level of detail they put into this thing is just wow. That's all I could say. Just wow. And in fact, they brought this last year as well. I got some footage of that. I posted it not too long ago. Well, last year, obviously. But I made the mistake of saying leg goes instead of leg go. Oh my goodness, I got some flack for that. A variety of vendors, as you can see right there, that reproduce and overhaul most of these components. That earlier one was a main landing gear strut from a 737, and I believe this is a flap track assembly from a 747, or a flap carriage, I should say. This is always cool to see. This is an aft engine mount off of a CFM 56. But you are right. The way this designed, it's a genius idea.
Thank you so much for letting us
Play with it.
You're so welcome.
As we're walking by, I noticed a particular component that I changed a lot as well. This is a igniter right here, and it's made by Champion. I found it fascinating of how they did a cutaway so you can see the innards. The big cable that you're seeing right there beside it, that is the lead that goes from the exciter box and sends electricity to the igniter. Incredible amount of voltage is getting passed through those things, so that's why you see it so well insulated. Okay, back to the events. This is called Antenna Gasket Installation Test. The task required is to remove and reinstall this antenna. Once reinstalling this antenna, it has to be done in the correct way. We have to install a proper gasket and a conductive polyurethane seal. But there's also another step, a bonding check. You have to make sure the resistance between the antenna and the base plate within the aircraft skin is at certain ohms.
Like right up here?
Sorry, I'm just trying to get a good angle though. At least I do something. You're not doing anything.
Hey, you better blend into it. Si no, te van a dar el cinto, eh.
Okay, on to the next event. Another interesting one was right here. This is a composite repair event. This event is presented by Aerospace, training for composite repairs. Say, for example, the composite repair is going to be a fiberglass. You cannot really cut fiberglass in a competition area because of all the particles, but this is what is being done. It's a layup. You are given templates in circular fashion to cut out your material, and then you place them underneath the bag. On top of that, you also putting on heat pads. Again, since this is a simulated event, there is no resin, so you have to just kind of imagine it's there. You have to utilize the ratios that is given to you in order to properly calculate how much you need to put in there. Once all said and done, a vacuum bag will be placed on top and sealed around the corners with putty. Then they will puncture the bag and create a suction. Electrical probes are also installed within this layup, and that signal gets sent to the computer. As soon as the vacuum gets to a suffice level, the computer will stop, and that's the event.
Engineers, students, technicians, begin.
Está haciendo resistencia.
Okay. 25. 25.4.
25.4.
Good number.
Go. Okay. One. Enter again. Okay, good.
I need good vacuum. Block signed off. All the blocks signed off, front and back. Bonders.
Well, right here.
I know, it seems like a lot, isn't it? I hope you guys are not getting bored. Stick with me, got a couple of more events. This event is called the Coaxial Cable and Antenna System Inspection with Frequency Domain Reflectometer. It uses this very specialized tool called a Nighthawk. It's attached to a particular cable or a coaxial cable or any kind of antenna. It can trace of any kind of precision, loss, and return of frequency. It also measures the distance of where the loss and return of frequency is happening. A voltage standing wave ratio, as well as cable loss and distance to fault. In simpler terms, it will pinpoint exactly where the issue is happening within that particular cable. The unit is already pre-programmed, so the task at hand here is to attach it to the length of coaxial cable, which has breaks in between. So let's say you had a cable that is about 50 feet long, but it has breaks between 10 feet, 30 feet, and another 10 feet, right? Within one of those cables, there might be a fault. This unit can detect it. Once the competitor finds where the fault is, now they can proceed on replacing that particular cable. Once replaced, you redo the test and make sure that there is no more faults. That's about it. Next event. Okay, this one is presented by Gore. It's called D-Nose Leading Edge Sealant. This one's actually pretty simple. There is a removed component, or a leading edge component right there, a panel, and underneath there, where you see the fasteners go in, there is sealant. A very particular special type of sealant that this manufacturer makes. No longer have to mix up a compound and goop it on there. Now it looks like a strip of tape. You simply stretch it out and cut it to the right size and lay it on top. Reinstall the leading edge nose panel and then torque down the screws. Compared to the old ways of doing things, this is much nicer and much cleaner. And on top of that, you don't have to wait for curing time of the sealant. Once applied, it automatically adheres and just sticks and works. Overall, a very good product.
5, 4, 3, 2. 1 minute to the start of the next stage.
Overall, it was a very enjoyable event. It's one of my favorites. Also to mention, the Wall Street Journal did an incredible article on the aerospace maintenance competition. They mention it as the Olympics of the aircraft maintenance, and they get viewpoints from many incredible technicians. So I highly recommend you guys go read it. It's pretty awesome. Up next, the safety wire box presented by FedEx. And tell you what, this is quite challenging. We lovingly named it the blood box because you are not walking away without bleeding all over this thing. Safety wire cuts, and it cuts deep. I should probably say it pokes more than cuts. It is a gauntlet of challenges, from cannon plugs to U-bolts to turnbuckles and joints. We are following AC 4313, which is the guidelines on how to properly safety wire things. Only you have to do it properly, you have to do it fast. This is one of those skills that needs to be learned in school, and if you can take away anything from school, definitely learn how to safety wire properly. Initially, the box itself is sealed up and closed. We have to open it back up, and it's a two-person event. So 13 challenges within this box. Cannon plugs have to be installed correctly, because if they are installed incorrectly, the light within the box will not come on. Each of us are working on our respective side, but we're also communicating just in case we miss something, or if I miss something, my partner will tell me. Great shot of our West LA college team. They're doing incredible. That little light switch I was telling you about. Just to mention, all tooling is provided by the presenter of the event, using 32,000s and 20,000 safety wire. The smaller gauge wire is more reserved for the cannon plugs, and the rest is the higher gauge. I was going to put the original audio so you guys can hear all the clinking and the clanking with all the safety wire, and then I realized, yeah, it's not going to be a PG-13 style because lots of adult words are being said. The frustration starts building up when wires start poking you and wires are not going in the direction you want them to go. But it's still fun because me and my partner are talking, we started humming songs to each other. It's quite comical. I think at one point or another I started singing Highway to the Danger Zone or something like that. One of the most important rules within safety wire is the twists per inch. This one I want you to remember if you're going to school. 6 to 8 twists per inch. Anything less than that does not suffice. Anything more than that, now you're work hardening the wire itself. So 6 to 8 twists per inch, remember. I was actually very happy with this event. We got it done in a timely manner. We even got to finish some of the bonuses, so we got some extra points. But unfortunately, we didn't win this one. This is a good reminder from myself. Note to myself, make a safety wire video, which I will, I promise. Okay, that's enough about the blood box. Let's go on to the next event, which is presented by the United States Air Force, and this is a hose assembly. This would be simulating on how you would basically assemble a hose from scratch. That means you have to measure it, cut it, and insert the specific fittings in proper ways. Now, to make mention, this is not really done in the real world because most hoses already come pre-assembled with fittings attached. This is more reserved for, let's say, a field repair where you don't have the fittings, then you have to assemble your own hose. Apparently, Air Force still does this, but you won't find this in airlines anywhere. Hell yeah!
Ryan, can I switch?
That?
Don't forget to peel the tape.
Yeah, I know. I have more issues right now.
The total length of the hose has to be 11.5 inches. That means you have to cut the actual hose to 10 inches because the fittings make up for the rest. Once everything is assembled, that yellow box right by it is where you're going to be installing it and torquing it properly. You also have to use feeler gauges, making sure that the gap between the fittings is proper. Once all said and done, everything needs to be put away, no FOD is allowed, and all the tooling has to be in its proper place. Or unless you don't, you get docked points. Very strict. It was getting very crowded, so I didn't get a chance to get the footage of them installing it into the box, but I want to show you a completed hose. This is the final product. This is what it should look like. Matter of fact, this is the actual hose that they assembled because the judges give it to you as a consolation prize of you completing that challenge. But yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. Oh, a fun little fact for you. See those little fittings? Those things are expensive as heck. Like, I think it's a 3-piece fitting, and each one of those parts costs like $90 to $100. So yeah, that's pretty expensive right there. Up next, another troubleshooting event. This time, it's a logo light harness troubleshooting. The task required here is to remove those cannon plugs and remove that harness, and then you have to ring the wires. Ringing wires means basically you're using a multimeter and making sure you have proper continuity and there's no faults within those wires. Now, the interesting part is that there's little tricks inside. There's little faults and diodes that are hidden inside those bundles. The possibility of having an open circuit or short, or maybe the insulation is incorrect. This is why I say learning how to use a multimeter in a correct fashion and knowing how to read it is very important. Once you collect the readings from the multimeter, you have to document everything. And on top of that, you're following a wiring diagram, as you can see right here. Slowly, any kind of malfunction within the wiring bundle or the harness starts revealing itself. That's about it, ladies and gentlemen. We finally come to the end of the events. And this is the man that it's all about. Charles Taylor, the first aircraft maintenance technician. Why do we do this? It is in order to honor this man and his legacy. Very few people know about this man. It will highlight the Wright brothers and everybody else that's in the aviation industry, but they will never look at this man. Because without this man, the Wright brothers would have never even got off the ground. We all stood around, congratulated each other because it was an incredible achievement by all. The military, airlines, students, and we got to sign a banner. And of course, I got to leave a little mark. Well guys, the competition is over. I'm all done with all my events. It's time to go celebrate. Adult beverages are going to be included. All right. Tomorrow will be the award ceremony. See you then. We went out and celebrated with our team, and then the next day, it was the award ceremony.
forget the behind-the-scenes heroes as well. From planning and organizing the events to record keeping, scoring, social airlines. We are so proud of Ken and what he does to represent this industry and how much he has really achieved, not just for himself, but for everybody else, right? This event wouldn't be possible without the work of Ken. AMT Day wouldn't be possible without the work that Ken has put in. So we are very thankful to have him on our team. And Ken, congratulations again. Also, especially in times like this, we all have to work safely, right? We need to make sure that safety is never in question in our industry, and the people in this room and the people that we represent. That is the focus. That's what we have to keep in front of mind, and that's how we will continue to thrive as an industry. So thank you for all you do there. Again, thank you for your time. We have a really exciting morning ahead of us. So let's get to that. Congratulations and good luck.
After a few speeches from the sponsors and the board members of the council, then we proceeded on to giving out the awards. They went through every single one of the events and presented the first place winners. Also presented winners to the different categories as well, such as schools and military. I'll be the first to tell you, my team did not win any kind of first place prizes. We got pretty close on some of the events, but you know what? It's all right. We still have fun. But some of our other teams did take first place. For example, our Tulsa MRO team took first place overall within their category, and they took second place overall. And the thing I'm most proud of is our sponsored schools. Our West LA team took fourth place within their category. They took the podium like 3 times. I'm so proud of those guys. But there's also another school that did such an incredible job, from George T. Baker. They did such an incredible job that they earned themselves the second place within their category. Here we go. The overall first place winners: Southwest Airlines, Team Herb. Second place, American Airlines, Team Tulsa. And third place, United Airlines, Chicks Fix. And by the way, that's a full females team. Matter of fact, they were all females teams. There were 8 of them in total, which is incredible. We see more and more women in the industry, which is encouraged, and we want to see that. Big congratulations to Southwest. Such an incredible achievement. If you guys want to see the complete list of all the winners in different categories, I highly recommend you guys go on to aerospacemaintenancecompetition.com. All the information is there, along with all the event notes, all the stuff that I talked about. As for me and my team, well, time for us to go back home to LA. It was an incredible journey, a fantastic adventure. It was an honor and a pleasure to attend and to participate with this grand event, but more so to meet the people that I met there. You guys are some of the best people I've ever met. We made friends, made connections, and most importantly, I got to see the future of the industry, the students. At the end of the day, this is what it's really for, the students. When you can talk to them and see that bright shining star in their eye, and you know they're meant for this industry. And us as senior technicians that are in the industry as it is, we want to encourage them. We want to show them the right way of doing things. And we want to show them how much their career can flourish. I want to thank every single one of you for taking your time and watching and participating on this journey, on this adventure with me. And that's about it for me. Another chapter comes to an end. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all on the next adventure. Later.